welcome to West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and on behalf of the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, welcome to another show. Today we have a very exciting guest, someone I'm very pleased and delighted is here, someone who's become a great friend of the West Bloomfield Police Department, and she is Denise Scarbrough, board member of MICOPS, Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors. Denise, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I know I had to twist your arm to get you on, but I'm glad.
Just a little bit.
I'm glad you're here. Now, Denise, don't run away. We're going to highlight an employee of the police department in a segment we call the Corner Spotlight. Okay? Folks, if you look on your screen, you will see the smiling face of Police Cadet Dave Brendreth. And Dave is currently assigned to administration as a police cadet, and he hired in December of 2013, so it means he's been here about 5 months. Now, I'm going to tell you, Dave is coming in as a cadet, which is an entry position, gives him a chance to see if he really wants to get into law enforcement, gets to learn how to talk with people, do our reports, and it also gives us a chance to observe his work habits and to see whether he would make a nice fit. So it works out good for both of us. Now we're glad Dave is here. He's actually had a lot of experience in life, so I think this is what he really wants to do. And when I asked him about his favorite food, Dave, you're a man after my own heart. Steak and potatoes. It doesn't get any better than that. And he said his favorite book, Everything You Know Is Wrong, Human Origins, written in 1998 by Lloyd Pye. I never even heard of it till he told me about it, and I looked it up. It does seem like an interesting book. His favorite movie, The Departed, a 2006 crime thriller with Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson. And you know what? I think one of the other cadets said the same thing. Would you guys trade notes on this show or what? But he likes that movie as well. And his favorite music is anything but country and western. Oh, Dave, I do like country western. And as far as his accomplishments and hobbies, he said one that he's particularly proud of is he went back to school and got a criminal justice degree in 2012. And I'm glad that you didn't just stay out of school, that you did go back. And he got that from Saginaw Valley State University. And he also ran his own telecommunications business for 4 to 5 years. So he is a young man with a lot of experience. He's been married 9 years, congratulations, and has a 5-year-old daughter. So those are things to be proud of. When I asked him about his favorite quote, it's one that I like as well. Even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there, by the great American humorist, Will Rogers. So Dave, we're glad you're here. Continue the good work, even though I'm losing my voice, and I'll see you back at the barn. So we're going to turn the corner spotlight off on Cadet Dave Brendreth, and we're going to today look at a dumb criminal. And this one is a fellow from Pico Rivera, California, and I hope he stays there. In fact, he's probably going to stay there for a long, long time. Police in this community had an easy time pinning a 4-year-old murder on Anthony Garcia. So you can run, but you can't hide. That's because he pinned it on himself with an elaborate tattoo on his chest depicting the killing. So the guy's not very bright, is he? Cops noticed the incriminating ink when taking Garcia's mugshot for a petty crime. So if he would only spend a little time in jail, now he's got a longer sentence. The tattoo revealed all the details of the night, from the Christmas lights and the bent street lamp near the liquor store where the body was found, to an image of an angry helicopter machine gunning the victim. This guy, you know, he reminds me, I know it's off the path a little bit, there was a guy in Florida who committed a crime and he had a tattoo of the map of Florida on his face. I think these two guys know each other. Garcia's nickname, excuse me, Garcia's nickname, Chopper. Well, Chopper, enjoy your time in prison. And thanks for making it easier for the police in Pico Rivera, California. Folks, we'll be right back with a very exciting guest and a dear friend of the police department from MICOPS, Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors. Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
After the tragic loss of an officer in the line of duty, Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors provides support to surviving law enforcement, families, and coworkers. To learn more about MICOPS and upcoming events, or for more information on how you can help, visit mycops.org or call 877-464-2677.
Hello, and we're back once again at West Bloomfield 911. I'm very proud to present Denise Scarbrough, board member of the Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors. Denise, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we met, well, we had talked before, but we actually met seriously when Sergeant Patrick O'Rourke was killed. And I got to tell you that MICOPS has done a wonderful job with the department and with the family, assisting us through all of this, helping our guys know what to expect when they went to DC, especially the first year after Patrick was killed. Why don't you tell, I mean, I know, but why don't you tell the audience how you got involved with MICOPS? It wasn't the initiation, it wasn't something anyone wants to experience.
No, it's not an organization that you ever want to be a member of, but you're so thankful that it exists because you don't know how to manage through this whole journey of grief, and it isn't until you meet someone in the same circumstances that you have an idea of how to begin to cope. It was February 9th, 2005 when my husband, Sergeant Michael Scarbrough, was killed in the line of duty. He and his coworker were going to attend weapons training, and they were traveling on I-94, and he was a passenger in the vehicle, and they hit black ice and slid off the road into a telephone pole. It was at that moment that I became a police survivor. It was at the funeral, actually it was right before the funeral, when we were actually in the planning stages, that my liaison officer from the department had me, was with me the whole way, at the funeral home, at the church, everywhere that I needed to be to plan for this funeral. And I met this woman who introduced herself as a member of MICOPS, and she just took my hand and said, "This is who I am. My husband also died in a car accident," and she said, "And I'm here for you." And she said, "And I don't know what it's like to feel what you're feeling," she said, "but I've been through this same situation, and I'm here to do whatever I can." And from that point on, I met numerous survivors at the funeral who just came up to me and said what their loss was. You know, I'm the father of, I'm the mother of, I'm the sister, I'm the brother. And it was just this immediate feeling for me of connection that something was going to be out there that was going to be there for me. Right. So that was the moment in time where I was introduced to the organization.
And you know, and it's a small world because, well, first of all, why don't you tell the folks what department Michael worked for? He
was a Wayne County Airport Authority police officer.
Yeah, and I remember when I read about his accident, you know, someone I spoke to that was there or knew Mike and said it was like that was the only telephone pole in the area.
It was.
And I think a truck had cut them off.
Yes.
And it's like, just unfortunately one of those unfortunate fates in life.
Yes.
And then again, being a small world, because it turned out that the pastor at my church that I was attending at that time, Father John Hedges, was your pastor as well.
Yes, when he did our pre-marriage meetings, because he was new to our church. And so Mike and I had many conversations with him and got to know him very, very well.
What church was that?
It was Mount Carmel.
Okay.
Back in 1988.
Okay,
so.
yeah, we had him as pastor at St. Stanislaus Kostka.
Yes.
Say that's a mouthful.
Yes, that's a mouthful. Yes.
And he's a wonderful priest.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But we found the same thing when Sergeant O'Rourke was killed, and of course we knew about you guys already, but I know when I have spoken with Mrs. O'Rourke, Pat's surviving spouse, Amy, and she's, as us, has said you guys have been phenomenal and wonderful. And even though, as I was Amy's liaison officer, I helped her the best way I could, I can't tell her I know what you're going through, because I don't. But you could tell her that.
Right. And you, even knowing what her loss was and knowing that I also lost a spouse, I always say that I don't know exactly, because I didn't know their relationship. I didn't know Pat. I didn't know that, but I did know the tragedy of losing someone that I loved. So I say we share this tragedy, and then I'm here to help. That's how we come in, and that's how we offer our support. So. Yeah, I met Amy at the viewing of her husband's funeral and met the entire family at that point, and just laid the groundwork and let them know that they had people that I could connect them with who could help them through this journey.
Right. And
or along with this journey.
Right, she's kind of said the same thing to you. You guys have become the best friends she
Yes.
never wanted to meet.
Exactly.
You know? Well, now let's talk a little bit about MICOPS, because MICOPS is really the Michigan chapter of a national organization called COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors. And even though Michael died in 2005, you volunteered with MICOPS starting in 2007.
I did.
What spurred you to come on board, as it were?
Well, all of the help that I had received for myself and my children, and my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law, and just everybody who received the help on a local level, and then we were able to attend all of the national level occasions that they had for us. So it was Police Week, like you spoke about, that we were able to attend. But also, I remember at the funeral being told by one of the spouse survivors that there was this camp that my children and I were going to be able to go to that was offered by Concerns of Police Survivors. They said it's going to be free to you and your children, and it'll be a week-long camp where you're going to receive counseling and help through this while you're surrounded by other people in your same situation. And so I went to camp 6 months after Mike died, and I just remember being there and thinking to myself, it was the first time I felt normal. I didn't have to explain that I was a young widow and that my husband was killed and he was a police officer. Everybody there had a spouse who was a police officer who died and had children there. So it was this connecting moment. And then when I went to spouses retreat, it was just the spouses who got to go for a weekend, and again work on our own issues that we had, being an only parent now. And then I finally went to Police Week the following year and connected with all of the people I had met, and it was almost like a light bulb began to go on. But part of our organization's, I don't want to say rules, but policies is that you can't be a part of the organization, you can't be a board member until a year has passed, because we really want the survivor to focus that first year on doing a lot of healing. And so it was probably in DC the following year, I remember looking at our executive director, Lynn Emmert, and I remember saying to her, I think I'm ready to give back. And she said, I've been waiting to hear that. And I found out from one of the parent survivors that he had been grooming me from day zero to, or day one I should say, to be a member of this organization. Little did I know. So I stepped on as the secretary in 2007 and then became the president of the organization. And then I'm now the immediate past president. So I still serve on the board, and I'm still an active member of the board. To this day. So it's been 7 years later and still, reaching out and helping survivors.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because your youngest sons were actually 10 years old at the time Michael was killed. And you had a daughter who had been 12 years old, right?
She was actually 13, and the boys, and the boys were 10.
So they were relatively young.
Very.
And that's not a time in their life, not that a child ever wants to be without a parent, but they're now starting to go through some changes themselves. And you mentioned you had a spouses camp, but there also is a camp for the children as well.
Absolutely. My children had not cried after Mike had died, after the funeral. We kind of just went about doing our regular stuff, going to school. I went to work. We went out to eat. We cleaned the house. We did all of soccer, softball, just all
back with life.
We did. We got right back to life. And I just remember feeling a little bit nervous, because no one, I know that I was grieving, and I know that I would cry, and I know that I would break down, but the kids weren't doing that. And so I was a little concerned.
At least not in front of you. Anyway,
not in front of me, right. So I thought, I'm going to go to this camp and I'm going to find help for my children. And lo and behold, I also found quite a bit of help for myself in how to help my children. So it was a wonderful opportunity. And it was the first time all three of them cried. And it was a kind of healing moment at that point.
And since Patrick's died too, I've spoken, of course, to his family. I've gotten very close with the family over the last 20 months or so. I mean, they have camps for siblings,
Yes.
Camps for the parents, camp for in-laws. It's quite remarkable what COPS has done over the. Well, how long have they existed?
Since 1984, so they just we just celebrated our 30th anniversary at Police Week this year.
That's right. Now I remember.
So yes, so 30 years for them, and we're in our 26th year as a state chapter.
Okay.
But yeah, with national also, just 3 years ago, we formed a coworkers retreat. So we knew that we've always supported coworkers in our way, but now that there's this coworker retreat where coworkers can go and talk about their loss, surrounded by other people from other departments all over the U.S. who have that similar loss.
Right.
It's just been, we've heard nothing but very, very positive things about that too.
Well, now let me ask you about COPS in this sense. As board president, you made enough income to retire as board president, did you not?
We did not. I did not. I did not. And over the last 7 years, I've made a whopping zero.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
why I said
It's
that.
an all-volunteer organization. So none of us get paid to do what we do. It's just that it's almost as if when it's your turn and you feel ready to do what has already been done for you, it's this overwhelming urge to give back. It absolutely is. And I think that because we are an all-volunteer organization, that no one's in it for monetary gain, no one's in it to, it's like you're not in it for the,
agenda.
Right, there's not a personal agenda.
Right.
All you're in it for is to try to help these new survivors make sense of this very senseless situation.
Right.
So yes.
Well, I had the privilege this year of going to, as we were talking off camera, of going to Police Week, and I know you've been there many times.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that for a minute. But the one thing I do want to say is I'd met on, when I was down there, an officer from the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and we began speaking, and I had mentioned to him that we had remembered and honored one of their officers because he's a son of Michigan.
Yes.
And born out in the Lansing, raised out in the Lansing area. And I told him, we did a memorial and mentioned him because he's one of ours. And he was very pleased, of course. And then at the luncheon, he had come up to me and said, the family would like your business card. And I got the opportunity to meet them on the plane ride actually back home. So he was not married. The officer was Timothy Allen Huffman from Arizona DPS. He was not married, but his next of kin was his twin brother. And I got to meet him and his family. They were just so overwhelmed with, I guess, just being so grateful. One, they were treated so well by the Arizona Department of Public Safety, which is good to hear because I've heard other horror stories where not every department does that.
No.
And they were treated wonderfully by people in New Mexico where Tim was buried, but they also spoke how grateful they were with everything that COPS had done in Arizona and at Police Week.
Yes.
So that was very touching to hear that.
Yes.
Just helped them through a terrible time.
Yes. And what's nice about our local organization, because his brother lives here, even though his officer was killed in another state, he's now our survivor. So he's been involved with us at our Christmas party, at our memorial in May. He'll be offered the opportunity to go to siblings retreat. And what's nice about through MICOPS. So our local organization, which is wonderful, that we, through fundraising and donations, we're able to then assist our survivors in getting to those retreats that the national organization provides for free.
Right.
And many years we have been able to pay the entire flight for them, so it's actually a free opportunity for our survivors to get the help that they really need, the support.
Right.
Yes.
Well, now talk a little bit about what goes on during Law Enforcement Week in Washington, D.C., because this was my first time, and it was very impressive.
Yes, it is an awesome,
it's
an awesome event. I've been back every year. All of the friends that my children and I have made through COPS and going to all the retreats, we actually go back to DC to honor the new officers, but also for us to all gather together and reconnect amongst ourselves. So it's an opportunity. So I had been asked, oh, why would you go back and why would you revisit that? Why would you, and it's not about revisiting the death, it's about celebrating his life and helping the new survivors to get to that point where they can come back and celebrate their officer's life versus the death of their officer. You start out the week by getting welcomed at the gate by different honor guards from all over the United States and England and Australia. I've met so many people over the years, and they escort you to get your luggage.
Right.
And they take you onto these shuttles and take you to the hotel that you've been assigned to. And from that day, from that moment forward, it's just a moment, it's just a week filled with
You're treated like royalty.
it is. It's honor and respect, and just the children get to see how important their parent was, and you just feel that reconnection to all that was a part of your life for so long, being married to an officer. And so the candlelight vigil happens, where it's every officer's name is read from from the previous year all the way back. They try to locate officers from years and years ago. And just make sure that those officers' names are being read and their names are being put onto that wall, so that for all time people, can go there and pay their respects.
And I think this year there was, what, 286 officers?
There were quite a few.
And most were historical additions. And even though regrettably it's a belated recognition, now they'll never be forgotten.
No, which is wonderful, and that's what we've heard from the families also.
Right.
And then COPS provides 2 days of conferences for the children and all of the family members to kind of introduce them to the programming, offers breakout sessions that you can choose to go to kind of get the support that you feel you need.
Right.
And then you get to go to the lawn of the Capitol and hear the president or vice president speak, and hear
Talk a little bit about that. Now, that's COPS works in cooperation with the Fraternal Order of Police to put that on. We should give them credit because that's kind of their thing.
Absolutely.
And that's a wonderful experience for the families and the survivors. Talk a little bit about that as well.
So the FOP is instrumental in doing the recognition of the officers on the lawn of the Capitol. The National Law Enforcement Memorial Foundation and the wall are those people who are responsible for the etchings on our, on our memorial wall. And then COPS is responsible for the conferences, and they all work together very well to create this wonderful week. And to sit on the lawn of the Capitol and listen to the president speak, and George Bush was the president when my husband was honored, and he came to shake everybody's hands, and my kids got autographs, and just this wonderful, very sad but very beautiful, majestic type of event. To hear your officer's name read, and you're being escorted by someone from the department up to the wreath, and you're placing that flower and then getting a medal from the FOP, just honoring your loved one, your officer. So it's just one of those moments again that are wonderful. And then National COPS does a picnic at the end of the week to just kind of help you to wind down, take a breath, say goodbye to all the wonderful people you've met. And so
And I know the candlelight vigil is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
And the COPS president who spoke this year, and she had mentioned that last year as well. I got to see that one. And I think she said something that's very true. In an earlier time, I think people grieved better, as it were. And in the old days, even before, I mean, I'm not a kid anymore, but even before my time, it was not uncommon for someone to wear a black band on their arm. For a man would wear a black band on his suit for a long time, indicating he was in mourning. Women would wear black dresses, It seems like in our hectic 21st century culture, it's like, okay, it's been a half hour, I think you should be done.
Exactly.
But it doesn't go away that fast.
No, it doesn't.
And
it
she
doesn't.
did mention that.
Yes.
And that's pretty impressive, seeing the lights when everyone's lighting the candles there.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, when you have, like 30 or 40,000 candles lit at the same time, and it's dark, and it's just quiet, and it's just a moment of reflection. It's pretty. Every time I see it, it's one of those moments.
It kind of reminds me of George Herbert Walker Bush's phrase, what a million points of light, and that's what it kind of looks like.
That's what it feels like.
I mean, you look around, there's people scattered, not just at the memorial, but on the other side of the street, on the grass.
Everywhere.
All over the place, and it's really very impressive.
It is.
Well, now, let me ask you, MICOPS is it is a charitable organization, correct?
It is. We are a 501c3, correct?
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left, so why don't you tell the folks something you would like them to know about MICOPS, and maybe give them a phone number and a website if they would like to make a donation to this very worthwhile and wonderful organization.
Yes, as I said, we are all volunteers, so all of the money that we raise goes to being able to provide this programming for the families and being able to support the families. And we survive only on donations and fundraisers people will do in honor of us and donate the money to us. And we have our website, which is www.micops.org. That's MICOPS.org, and that has a list of everything we do and every way we spend our money, including our are they nines or what? The way we've spent our money.
Right.
And so we're very transparent about how we provide that support to our survivors. And our telephone number is 1-877, the number 4, MICOPS, MICOPS.
Very good.
So our president answers that phone.
Excellent. And is there also a little shopping area on the website?
There is. And we now have PayPal, so people who want to donate using a credit card are able to do that. Before we just were able to do by check. But we'll still take checks. We'll take whatever people are willing to give us, because if we can send a child to camp or send a parent to their retreat, it's an awesome thing to be able to do.
Well, Denise, I can say from firsthand experience, you guys are wonderful and the organization's wonderful, and I hope people will open up their pocketbook and donate to MICOPS. Folks, if you would, remember at the end of the show, we usually do a police memorial, and in a sense this is, again, a memorial, but we wish to remember a fallen canine. And as I've told you before, in the law enforcement world, these working dogs, they are considered the police officer, and their handler, the human counterpart, is considered the handler. We want to remember and acknowledge the service of Canine Luger, who worked for the West Bloomfield Police Department. He served us for many years, and he died in the line of duty on September 23rd, 1997. This is kind of a belated recognition, but we'd like to recognize the service of Canine Luger. He was a trusted partner to canine handler Larry Missud, who has since reached the promised land and retired. But again, we want to recognize the service and acknowledge the sacrifice of Canine Luger. And remember, these dogs truly are always faithful. Folks, we want to thank you for watching West Bloomfield 911. I want to thank our esteemed guest, Denise Scarbrough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise, for
You're
coming
welcome.
on. She's a current board member and retired immediate president from the Michigan Concerns of Police Survivors. I can attest to the fact they are a wonderful organization, and all the people are like Denise. They're just wonderful people, and we're very grateful that they served the O'Rourke family as well as the West Bloomfield Police Department and all the families of fallen officers. So please, if you wish to make a donation, contact them. They're great. You'll have no regrets. We want to thank you again for watching the show. Remember, you can catch us on the television, but if you miss us on the telly, you can go to the internet on demand at civiccentertv.com. On behalf of Chief Michael Patton and the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, I'm Officer Rick. Remember, take care of yourselves, be good to one another. Tomorrow's promised to no one. And we'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.